Hello my friends, so today on Wicca 2.0 we're going to be talking about incense and how to make incense and some ideas to make your own incense. So stick around. So the first thing I want to talk about is incense comes in different forms of burning incense. There is stick incense, which is incense which is basically rolled onto a stick, and you light the incense and it burns all the way down. And people make incense like this. You can look it up on YouTube to find videos like this on how to make stick incense, and that is a great hobby for some people. And it's also very convenient because you don't have to necessarily have a charcoal like the incense that I'm going to show you how to make. You just have it on a stick, it dries, and as soon as it's dried, you light it and you put it in an incense holder or in a little jar with some sand, and you're good to go. The other thing which I don't have are cone incense, which is basically pretty much just like that. There's also videos on YouTube on how to make those. But it is similar to what I'm going to show you here. But what you do is you roll it up, you kind of ball it, make a little ball out of it, and then you roll it up, you kind of squeeze it, and it makes like a little cone. And basically, it's the same thing. You take either you put it on a stone or on sand, something that's not going to carry the heat very well, and you light the cone incense and you put it on there, and that burns. And that's another form of incense. And then there's a type of incense that I'm going to show you how to make here, which is you make it yourself and you put it on charcoal. And the charcoals are like this. And I'll show you what they look like. I'm sure you've probably seen them before if you're not too familiar with them. But they are, you light them and you put them on sand, or you put something to kind of allow the heat to disperse well, so it doesn't burn your altar or your altar cloth or even yourself. And there's various different types of these. These particular ones that I have here, I got from a local, what they call a head shop. And they're actually made for hookahs. There's a lot of Middle Eastern people who live around here who like to smoke hookahs. And so that's what these charcoals are for. But instead, I use them for burning incense. And it's nice. It costs a little more, but it doesn't have as much smoke. And it burns pretty evenly and pretty steady. And so that is what I use. Now, the way that you get these lit is you can light them with a match, or you can light them with one of these little charcoal lighters, or you can use a candle. Some people use their fingers, and they'll just hold it between their fingers and they'll put it over the flame and light it that way. I don't like to do it that way. I prefer to use little tweezers, and I just hold the charcoal with the tweezers and just light it off the top of a candle. I light the candle first and then put that over it, and kind of in a circular motion, what it does is it gets the flame all the way around, so it's nice. It doesn't have like a single hot spot. It's kind of evenly dispersed, and it burns pretty quickly that way. And the reason why I do that is because it gets very, very hot. And what you'll need then is you will need something to put the charcoal in or on. And so I have this particular incense burner there that you can see it's been well loved. And I fill the bottom with the ashes of my previous burnings, or you can also put sand in there. And I put a little screen here. if you can see that. And the reason why I do that is it helps to get air from below. And one of the things with, if you just put it on sand, is that it may burn all the way down, but right where it touches the sand, that part may not burn because it doesn't have oxygen. Fire needs oxygen to burn. And that is, so if you ever want to put out a fire, one of the ways is to deplete its oxygen, and it won't be able to burn. And so the screen helps to get give it air so that it can burn, and then the sand right below helps to disperse the heat. And then the way that this thing is shaped, it still gets pretty hot. So if you will see on the side here, I have a little hanger that I hang the incense off of, and it's off to the side there where I don't get burned with it, but it's also far enough away from my altar that it doesn't burn my altar or anything that I have near it. So we've talked about the burner, we've talked about the charcoal. Now let's talk about incense. If you've seen some of my other videos, I have made planetary incense. For example, I have Venus here, and these are all incense that are based off of ingredients which are found in the 3 books of occult philosophy by Cornelius Agrippa. Again, there's also, you can go to my website and you can download all of these for free, and it will give you the recipes for all the 7 planetary incense: Sun, Moon, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, and you can make them yourself. If you prefer, you can also go to my store. If you don't want to make the incense and you just want to order it, you can go to my website and you can order the incense. And I will not send you a jar, but I will send you a little a baggie of it, and then you'll have the incense for yourself. The thing is, I do not charge the incense, so when you get it, you would probably want to charge it yourself. I make the incense on the day and hour of the particular planet. So, for example, if it's moon, I'm going to do it on a Monday in the hour of the moon. If it's for the sun, I'm going to do it on a Sunday in the hour of the sun. That's the only thing that I do to it. And then when you get the incense, you just go ahead and consecrate it and make it your own. So it's uncharged. And let's see what else. Okay, so to make incense, you're going to want to have a piece of paper or something that you can put the mortar and pestle on. So I have a mortar and pestle here, and what this does is it helps to, little bits are going to fly out as you're making the incense, and so what it does is it helps to capture the incense. It's a good idea to clean these things out after every use, but I've used this for so long. This is actually the most recent edition. I just recently bought this one, but still already it's pretty it's well loved, like my incense burner there. So, making incense. There are, one of the first things you want to do is you want to have a base incense. Like you want to have frankincense, mastic, storax, then gum benjamin. You want to have some kind of a base, like a base resin or a base incense. Usually it's a pretty cheap kind of neutral smelling one, and that is your base. And you mix that up pretty well, and then you throw in whatever it is that you want to throw in. For example, earlier when I recorded this video, I made some lavender incense, which I think, where do I have that? Yes. So I save a lot of these little jars from spices and stuff to use for when I create incense. And I'm going to show you how I made this particular one. This one has in it, it has Storax, a little bit of Storax, frankincense, and then the majority is lavender because I wanted it to be lavender. The frankincense, it just adds a little bit of smell to it, and then the Storax is more of a base. And then I used actual lavender dried flower as the majority of the smell, and I really enjoy the smell of that. So the other thing you're going to need is I forget what these are called, a siphon or the name's escaping me right now, but these are really nice to have because when you do mix up your incense, you can pour it on the piece of paper, or you can spoon it up into this, and then you can even pour it into like little half-ounce bottles like that, or even larger bottles like this. And it just kind of keeps it nice and neat. So often you don't have to go out and buy every single ingredient you would need for an incense. Sometimes you can go to your kitchen and you can find the incense that you need. For example, cloves. Cloves are great. You get whole cloves. You can smash those up. They make a great incense. Another example is you can go to your yard, or you can go out and pick mint, dry it out, pour it into a little jar, and use it for seasonings, and you can also use it as an incense. And bay leaves. Just go to your local store, buy some bay leaves, and you can use bay leaves, depending upon what it is that you want to make a incense for. And you can also, I have used wet incense with, well, I should say like a musk or a, like for example, this is Egyptian musk. Now this is synthetic. This is not actual musk. Musk is made from the gland of an animal. And animal populations are just so low. There's no reason to perpetuate the industry of real animal product to make incense. We can make synthetic ones that smell just as good. And in my opinion, it's much more beneficial for all of us, including the animal itself. And for those, what you want to do is you want to pour in some of, like, let's say your frankincense or your Storax in there, smash it up a little bit till it's kind of ground, a little bit of powder, and then you only will need like a drop or two of that oil, the essential oil of that, in your mix, and then mix it up, pour in your other ingredients and keep mixing it up, and that musk or whatever essential oil that you're using is going to get in there, and it's going to flavor it all. For example, the Venus incense, which I've created, has musk in it. It has lavender, rose petals. Let's see, what does it have? It has in it, of course it would be this one. It has musk, lavender, red rose, and saffron. And so I just put in, I think for this whole jar, which was 2 ounces, I think I used like maybe about 2 drops of musk, and it was plenty to really, everything just blended together very well. I really wish you could smell this. It really smells so nice. And it is definitely, you smell it, and it is definitely Venus. So that is one example. You can buy like a big cheap bag of whole nutmegs, and nutmegs are really nice. They're very flavorful. they're a hard nut, so it takes a little while to smash it up. And one of the things that I do with the mortar and pestle is when I have big chunks in there, I'll put it on a good solid surface. I'm just holding it up, for example, and I'll smash it up this way, kind of up and down like that, to smash it up till it gets to about a smaller piece. And then what you do is you do a circular motion around this way. What that does is it pulverizes it. So you get it down to small chunks, and then when it gets to pretty much kind of really small chunks, then what you do is you go in a circular motion, pushing down on it, and what that does is it pulverizes it and turns it to powder, which is really what you want to do. You want to break all of your ingredients down to as fine as a powder as you possibly can. Some things like the rose petals for Venus, bay leaves, some other incenses, yeah, it takes a long time, and you just really have to work at it to get them smashed down and smashed down and smashed down to really get it pulverized down to a powder. If you want to use a spice grinder, you can do that and, you know, grind it up till it's a fine powder. But I don't like to use electronics to make incense because, as you may have seen in other videos, especially if you've ever watched Lady Grave Dancer, which is a great channel, you should check her out, is that you can, as you're using the incense and as you're grinding it up, you can put your intention into it, into each ingredient if you wish, or even into just grinding it up, so that what you're doing is you're creating the incense and you're charging it with your energy at the same time. And that is definitely one of the very best benefits of making your own incense, is you can charge it as you are creating it. And that is very good. Sometimes what I will do is I will have an incense, and I will, if it's one of those incenses that are really tough to grind down, like that Venus one, sometimes I will leave it chunky and put it on the charcoal, and it burns just fine. Doesn't have to be a fine powder. But you can, if you really want to get it fine, you can grind it as much as you possibly can. You can shake it up a little bit, and what's going to happen is the chunks are going to come to the top and the powder is going to go towards the bottom. And you can take that powder and pour it into the container that you're using for that incense, and then take the rest of that and grind it up and then mix it up later. And you can do this over a couple of days. I've done that before, where I've had an incense that was just giving me a lot of problems. I just grind it up as much as I can, do that, take out the powder, and then next day grind it up some more. Let's see. Oh, yes. So I have, like I said, I have various little spice containers that I use for my incense. So whenever I have a spice that runs out, I save the jar, wash it out with, soap and water. You can use alcohol, rubbing alcohol, to get the smells out of there. Just put in some water and some alcohol, mix it up a little bit. Salt is another thing that you can go to not only get rid of, like let's say you're using one container for an incense that you had in there already. Salt will also eliminate the charge that you had in that previous incense jar container, and it also gets rid of the smell too. So it kills two birds with one stone. That is pretty much about it. I created one incense, which I'm going to show you the video for. And I also wanted to give you the recipe for a really, really wonderful incense. I'm going to put it below, but I'm also going to put it here for you right now. And this incense is from the Key of Soloman. It's a really, really nice incense. And it's very easy to make. The hardest part, again, is smashing down the nutmeg. But that incense is made of cedar, nutmeg, gum Benjamin, and musk. And again, I use the synthetic Egyptian musk, and I just used, I think, about two drops of this. Mostly gum Benjamin, definitely nutmeg and cedar, and grind that up. The cedar is the one that gave me the most trouble, because it's a very kind of fibrous wood, and you just kind of have to keep breaking it down, but eventually it gets down to like a powder. And the same thing with the nutmeg. If you start out with the whole nutmeg like I do, you put it in there and you smash it up a little bit, and then when it gets down to little chunks, you pulverize it, and eventually the ingredients come together and it makes a very nice powder. I don't know if you can see it, but it's... Let's see if I can get a good close-up of this. I'll see if I can get a good close-up of this later on, so you can take a look at it. But it came down to a pretty good powder, and this was all pretty much just, I just grinded it a couple of times over a couple of days, and eventually it gets down to a nice powder. All right, that is pretty much about it. You don't have to go out and buy all of this stuff at once. Again, you can go into your kitchen, you can find whatever it is that you want to create a incense, pretty much whatever correspondence you want to use, something for energy, vibrance, you might want to use pepper or basil, maybe something for prosperity or health, you might use bay leaves. For maybe, you know, whatever it is, whatever your correspondence is you have for certain, you know, for your intention, whatever it is you want to do. But when you do collect the incense, you may find, for example, I have camphor in here, and I have it in 2 baggies because it is so dominant. It makes everything in my little box of incense ingredients smell like camphor. So just keep that in mind, that some of them are very, very strong and they will stink up the whole container, so you might want to put them separate, or maybe put them in a couple of different bags. Also, some of your ingredients you might want to dry out. Make sure you put it in a nice airtight container so that it doesn't mold or go bad. So just, you know, just kind of be aware of what you're using and store it wisely. And that is pretty much about it. Making your own incense is a lot of fun, and it's very powerful. It is a great way to improve your magic, and definitely it is also a lot of fun to be able to create your own incense for specific occasions, specific spells, or even just to personalize your practice more. So I think that is pretty much about it. Okay, thank you and blessed be.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to stalk me on social media, you can find me on Facebook and on Twitter. If you'd like to support my madness, become a Patreon supporter. All of my Patreons have access to my videos 3 days before I release them on YouTube, and you can watch them completely ad-free. This has been Liloken, dispelling the bullshit one video at a time. Thank you, and blessed be.